Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and sorry to start a bit late, but probably, as you know, there were several problems with the metro this morning. So we thought it was better to wait 10 minutes so that the room is full. My name is Philippe Mangal. I am the Executive Director of the Bio-based Industry Joint Undertaking, and I am very honored to be again with you today. So I would like to warmly welcome you to our 2018 Info Day, which is also my third Info Day with BBI. I am beyond happy to see more than 400 of you here today. We almost have now a full house. I would like to thank each one of you for your presence, especially those who traveled from outside Brussels and Belgium to be here with us today. I should not forget to also extend our warm welcome to those that are watching us online. My colleague just informed me that we have almost 100 viewers already turned in for the time being. Before continuing, I need to provide you with some practical information. You have already the information about the Wi-Fi connection. I need also to mention, I also already mentioned the broadcasting live via internet. So after the Info Day, the recordings will be made available in the BBI JU webpage. To those of you watching us online, know that you can send us your question via the link provided, and we promise to do our best to answer all the questions. Last but not least, please use the hashtag BBI Info Day when communicating on Twitter. So, all of us in BBI JU, as well as our founding partner, the European Commission, the Bio-based Industry Consortium, BIC, are thrilled to see your strong interest in BBI JU activities. And we know that we are all here today because we truly believe that Europe is capable and deserves to have its own bio-based sector, its own sustainable bio-based economy. A competitive economy that creates true value for its citizens. With your help and dedication, we are realizing our common vision for a competitive and sustainable Europe, leading the transition towards the post-petroleum era. And it is again with your help that our vision is becoming a reality all across European regions. The results that we have already obtained show that by continuing to work together hand in hand, we will indeed succeed. BBI 2017 call had a record response compared to the previous one, a 45% increase in proposal as compared to the call 2016. The total amount of our beneficiaries, including the call 2016, is now up to 729 participants with more than 65 projects for a total of 414 million funding, rising very soon to 82 project if we include the project of the call 2017, which is currently under the grant agreement preparation process, and the total amount of grant will be then around 500 million euro. All but 3 member states are now represented as beneficiaries, and we have expanded beyond the EU to include countries such as Iceland, Norway, Serbia, Switzerland, Israel, Turkey, and Faroe Islands as beneficiary in our project. We have already in our portfolio 6 flagship projects, and very soon 7, whereas the final target for 2020 was 5. The effectiveness of BBI JU project portfolio has been confirmed also by the interim evaluation of BBI JU. This evaluation was carried out by the European Commission with the support of independent experts, and the report was published in October last year. The report states that the specific tasks given to BBI JU are well aligned with the initial long-term objective of the BBI JU and are still highly relevant in order to keep EU competitiveness at the forefront of the global bioeconomy development. It was also concluded that BBI respect the rules of transparency and openness with a specific attention to synergies and complementarities with other initiatives. The two main positive effects of BBI JU are the evident structuring effect in organizing the value chain across sector and the innovation-driven mobilizing effect of all stakeholders. In addition to these key aspects, other important achievements are also highlighted in the report. The effectiveness of implementation, the significant private sector participation, which is translated into private investment and a leverage effect well on track, the BBI-specific KPIs, all well on track as well, and a funding rate of SME reaching 29%, which is well above Horizon 2020 target of 20%. Ladies and gentlemen, if we have managed to achieve this result, it is clearly also because of you. Because you and your innovative ideas are the key to unlock the potential of the bio-based industry and develop a truly competitive and sustainable bio-based sector in our continent. But I know that most of you here today are interested in taking part in our 2018 call. And without any doubt, many of you are hoping to become a BBI project participant. So with no further words, I will walk you shortly through the agenda of today. I will kick off today's proceedings by presenting the state of play of BBI JU program. Then I am delighted to hand over to our two keynote speakers, whom I really want to thank for their presence here today with us. Ms. Gaia Fantecchi, the head of unit of bio-based product and processing unit at the European Commission, and Dirk Carré, the executive director of the bio-based industry consortium BIC. During the session 2, you will hear from Eleni Sika, the head of program unit at BBI JU, about the novelties of the call 2018, just followed by a Q&A session. During the third session of the day, Pilar Llorente, Paloma Mallorquin, and Polivio Sajiangu will cover all practical aspects of putting together a proposal, a good proposal. They will share with you tips and tricks to help you through the preparation and submission stages of your application, as well as explaining the conditions and rules for participation and important information about the evaluation process. The BBI JU legal manager, Marta Campos, will also be present during the Q&A session in order to reply to all your questions. Our final speaker is the BBI Partnering Platform expert, Mr. Momet Velmade. He will explain how to use the BBI JU Partnering Platform and the Partnering mobile app to network by arranging face-to-face meeting with other participants here today during the afternoon brokerage event. I'm aware that we have already more than 600 face-to-face meetings already booked for this afternoon, already announcing a quite successful and efficient session for this afternoon. We will wrap up the morning. With a networking lunch around 1 p.m., which, as usual, will also be a great opportunity to make new contacts, as well as circulate between the different info booths who have kindly agreed to support us today. The afternoon session will start at 2 p.m. It is dedicated to our brokerage event, and can I ask already you to take your belongings during the lunch break so that we can rearrange the room here. Thank you very much. I believe that I can speak on behalf of all of us in BBI, European Commission and BIC, and tell you that we are looking forward to a very productive day and many fruitful discussions. And to conclude, this day would not be as it is without a team, the BBI team. Thanks a lot to all of them, and in particular the COM team, Anna Costa and Cleopatra Sidiropoulou, for the excellent organization. Thank you very much. And now it's still me, and I will start by updating you on the achievement of BBI JU and challenges ahead. Oops, if I don't use the right one. Okay, first I will start with a very few words re-explaining why BBI JU was launched. Then I will give you an overview of the program implementation, state of play of the project portfolio, the program monitoring, and some lessons learned. This is probably a reminder for most of you. We have updated the figures based on Eurostat 2015, showing that the bio-based sector represented by the value chain you can see on the slide is still a very fragmented sector, emerging sector for some of them, but a sector that already weigh for around 700 billion euro in Europe and 3.7 billion of job, which is not so bad for an emerging sector. Oops, what's happening? Why BBI was needed and why was it part in the bioeconomy strategy published and voted by the European Parliament in 2012? This public-private partnership was needed to de-risk investment in research and innovation and de-risk investment in industrial deployment, so-called biorefineries. It was needed to organize the value chain, to have the so-called structuring effect, and to reach the critical mass that not a country or region alone, a few companies can reach. So BBI JU was launched in 2014 as a public-private partnership between Commission and the bio-based industry consortium with a budget of 3.7 billion euro, with 25% coming from the Commission and 75% committed by BIC, to fund research and innovation project from technology development stage to full development. And this budget is spread into 7 calls organized until 2020 and the implementation phase until 2024. BBI JU is a multidisciplinary program office. It is an AU body, an autonomous AU body, but which strictly operates under the rules of Horizon 2020, as it will be reminded several times, with some derogation to fit as much as possible to the specific objective of the organization. Mission of BBI is very simple. It starts with a strategic innovation and research agenda that has been developed by the industry, approved by the Commission. It is the starting point, and our role is to implement this strategic innovation and research agenda. The objective of BBI and its partners is to develop sustainable and competitive bio-based industry in Europe based on advanced biorefineries that will source the biomass, the feedstock, in a sustainable way. To achieve this objective, the BBI office has 3 main objectives. The first one is to demonstrate new technologies. Here it's about filling the gap in existing value chain where technology is missing or still need to be improved or demonstrated. The second objective is about business model, to develop, demonstrate business model of all value chain, of course, but a business model sustainable, reliable for each actor of the value chain. And the last objective is very important. It comes from the fact that Europe has always been excellent in developing science and technology, but in the particular sector of bio-based industry, we saw too many cases where leading companies in Europe were developing technologies here, but the investment was done outside Europe. That's why this third objective was key, to have the capability to fund also projects at the highest TRL level, enabling the deployment of model and technologies at the industrial and commercial scale, the so-called flagship biorefinery plants. The expected impact for Europe by 2030, it's important. Those figures are based on impact assessment performed at the beginning of BBI and confirmed in the last update of the Strategic Innovation and Research Agenda published last year in July. The first expected impact is to replace 25% of oil-based chemical, to have 10 times more bio-based material, to increase the biomass supply by 20%, and increase by 25% the mobilization of unused source. Unused source is here typically municipal solid waste or waste water. To develop the full potential of waste, side stream byproducts from agro-food industry and from forestry. A very important aspect as well is that it is a huge opportunity for farmers to diversify and grow their income, which means that now it's fully included in the new Common Agriculture policy. But it's also about job, and the ambition is to create 700,000 jobs, where 80% of them will be in a rural area, to reduce the dependency on Europe on some strategic raw material, fossil raw material, of course, but also protein for animal feed, and phosphate and potassium, where today Europe is still too much dependent of import of non-renewable sources. As a consequence of all those impacts, it's expected that the shift to this bio-based economy will enable to reduce by 50% the greenhouse gas emission. I will not detail this slide because my colleague Eleni Zika will come back on it, but just to explain why the strategic innovation and research agenda is so important, because it is the starting point to prepare the annual work plan and the topic of our call. So based on this introduction, just to explain why this CIRA, where the first version was published in 2013, has already been updated, but simply because things are moving very fast. As an organization and our partner, it was important to already update it. So this agenda reflects the vision of the industry, the big vision. It is agreed by the European Commission, and this agenda also shows, and you will see a bit later, how we monitor the progress of the implementation. What is new in this CIRA? The first thing is that we moved from the historic organization of the program, which was initially around well-identified value chain and a bit isolated value chain. The reality of the development of bio-based industry is completely different, and you will see it as well in the KPI. That's why now it's organized under a strategic orientation, SO 1, 2, 3, and 4. The three first strategic orientation basically being the three segments of the value chain, starting with the feedstock, then the transformation of the feedstock into end product, and the last segment, strategic orientation 3, is the market. The strategic orientation 4 is about market uptake, accelerate this market uptake of bio-based product and application. So that's a big difference, and all the activity, the monitoring is now organized around those 4 strategic orientation. The second change in the CIRA is a non-change, because we keep and we strictly stick to the overall objective. We just have a better balance of the different type of action, but we keep the objective. We have included new feedstock, like aquatic biomass, which was already in a previous call, but now we have a clear emphasis on it, but also carbon dioxide as feedstock to produce biomass. The fourth is to have more emphasis on the role of brand owner to advertise and to develop the market of bio-based product. Organic waste stays a huge opportunity, a very difficult sector, but again, it's more emphasized. And last, another key performance indicator has been added to monitor the technological gain, especially in research and innovation actions. That's where we are in terms of call. The call 2018 was open, as you know, a few days ago. Regarding the other call, the call 2017 is today under the grant agreement preparation. Not true for all the projects. Some of the projects are already signed, and they will, all the 17 new projects will be signed before the deadline of 8th of May. So on top of the 65 running project of the call 2014 to 16, we will now have 82 running projects in the portfolio. In terms of mobilization of actors, thank you very much, because it's still growing. We don't know where it will end, but despite But despite a call with a reduced amount of topic in 2017, the mobilization was there with 45% more proposal, reaching 149 proposal, making an average more than 9 proposals per topic. It has a direct consequence, of course, on the success rate, because for this call, we had 1.8 proposal per million euro of budget, and of course, as a direct consequence, the average budget per proposal was around $500,000. Good news is that 2018 will be different, not because we expect less proposal, but because the budget will be much higher than for the call 2018. In terms of repartition of the budget per different type of action, and those two pie charts already include the project from the call 2017. You can see on the right side the reference. It's not an objective as such, but the reference in the SIRA with a different type of action. And the left on the left side, the pie chart shows where we are today. And we can say we are quite on the right track. Demo is a bit higher than the reference, but it's because of choice of allocation of budget. And it is expected that for the last call, we will have a slight adjustment of the repartition per type of action. This is the geographic distribution of participants, again including the participants in the project from call 2017. As already said, we have now beneficiaries from all member states except 3 countries, and we have also an increased participation from associated countries, and you can see on the right side. The interesting things, which is I must say more than interesting, is to see the growing interest from third countries, and in particular companies and organizations located in North America, now not just looking at what is happening in Europe, but that want to be part of the game, because we start now receiving a proposal from organizations interested to invest in Europe, which is, I think, a good signal for the initiative. In terms of type of organization, it's quite constant since the beginning. It's roughly 65% of the participants that are private organization, private for-profit. But there is still a lot of room for research organization, university, and other organization, as you can see on the graph, which still represent 1/3 of the participations. SME participation is excellent in BBI. You can see the evolution on those two graphs in terms of participation and in terms of funding. And on the right side, the reference of Horizon 2020. So you can see that we are doing much better, and it's important not for the statistic as such, but because probably more than in other sectors, SME has a really important role to play as technology provider, as also a fast mover. And what we can see is that SME use the tool BBI, which is excellent for them to scale up their technology, but also to get access to the market. So that's the situation today. So in total, for all the calls, 38% of SME in terms of participation in retained proposal, and the SME received 27% of the budget. We are currently doing an in-depth analysis of this SME participation, by far more than the only statistic. The work is ongoing. A report will be published, but we wanted to already share with you this interesting map showing the dot where are located the SME participating in BBI project, with the color code, which is the amount of SME. And you can see that, again, like on other map, it's quite well spread, the participation of SMEs. What is well spread also is the repartition of the running project per strategic orientation. In the past, we were presenting the organization with a matrix per value chain. Now we organize it per strategic orientation. And you can see with the color code referring to the different calls, how well spread it is for agri-based and forest-based feedstock. Those feedstock also take into account the side stream, the byproduct. And it's not surprising to see that for biowaste, CO2, and for aquatic biomass, there is no flagship yet, which in fact corresponds also to the evolution. I want also to highlight the strategic orientation 4, and now the project we have under portfolio for CSA. I can only invite you to interact as much as possible with those projects, and which are really on domain of interest, on policy, regulation, standardization, consumer awareness and benefit for the bio-based product, and knowledge gathering and networking. And of course, more detail can be found on our website for all of those projects. Again, this map shows how spread are the innovation, the ongoing innovation actions. So here it's about demonstration and flagship project, showing how are well spread the investment. And in particular, you can see with the red dot, the flagship, well spread from north to south, west to east, and more than a geographic spread, it's also completely different cases. Of course, a flagship located in Norway is a bit linked with the forest industry, which is not the case in south of Europe. And as you can see, the expected new flagship from the call 2017 will be in a Baltic country. So this map will be updated in 1 month for the time being. Unfortunately, we cannot share the acronym of the project, but the information will be there very soon. So the last point is the program monitoring. How do we monitor the implementation of the program? How can we know if we are on the right track or not, and to take corrective action where necessary? Basically, we monitor the program at 4 levels. First is efficiency monitoring, and there we operate under the key performance indicator of Horizon 2020. The second monitoring is the leverage effect and the financial contribution from the private sector. The third one is to monitor the project outcome, and it is monitored according to KPI specific to BBI. I will come back on this one. And the last one is the monitoring of expected socioeconomic and environmental impact of the BBI JU project. And this one is a new layer that has been added this year, because at the beginning of the program it was difficult. We had not enough projects in the portfolio. So now I will give some information about the number 3 and number 4, and start the KPI specific to BBI JU project. What is the outcome of the current portfolio of the project? The outcome expected by 2020. It is strictly based on a questionnaire addressed to project coordinator that report the result and that document the result. It's not only data, but it's well illustrated by example. In green on the slide, this is the target in the CIRA by 2020, and in blue, it is the expected result already reported end of 2017. And you can immediately see that we are more than well on track, with one exception, which is the KPI 3. But this one is very simple. It's the amount of project in the portfolio. So it's really directly the consequence of the programming strategy. But we are on the right track. 65 projects, soon 82, objective 200 at the end of BBI number 1. So this, I will now highlight 4 KPI. And I invite you to read the annual activity report of the BBI if you're interested in having more information and more detail about what product, what companies, what project are we talking about. So I selected 4, I think, very relevant one. The first one is about cross-sector interconnection. And today, the project already report 170 new cross-sector interconnection expected by 2020, where the target was 36. So we are doing much better, and it is a clear illustration of the structuring effect of the initiative, playing a key role in the defragmentation of the sector, with also a more inclusive approach, attracting new sector and new source of biomass. The second KPI is about new bio-based value chain. And they, first of all, it really illustrates how the model has changed from the beginning with well-identified, isolated value chain, with now the reality of the sector, which is a lot of interconnection. So not surprisingly, the project report already 139 new bio-based value chain expected by 2020, where the initial target was 10. And again, it clearly illustrates the systemic change which is happening in the sector, and also the strong mobilization of the actor. In the full report for each of these KPI, we document a little bit, and especially what is the novelty, what are the aspects of the novelty of the new value chain. As you can see, 61% of those new value chain are linked with new market, new product, and half of them combine different existing technology or new type of biomass, new type of feedstock. KPI number 4 is about new bio-based building block. And there I have to point out that we have a lot of discussion with the definition of building block in the chemical industry. Definition in bio-based industry is a bit different. Important to mention, because we report already to expect 57 new bio-based building block by 2020, where 5 were expected. But more interesting to see that 20 of those new building blocks will be breakthrough building block, and 10 of them will show better performance than their fossil alternative. In terms of newness, what is new in those building blocks? 60% of them already report a reduction of CO2 emission, 37% improvement of the land use, 39% decrease the input cost, and 37% on the biodegradability. And as mentioned at the bottom, there are always some example illustrating those figures. Last KPI I want to illustrate today is the new bio-based material. And again, we expect 127 new bio-based material by 2020, where the initial target was 50. And again, here we have 22 breakthrough bio-based material, completely new, and 57 of them showing better performance than the fossil alternative. The main aspect of novelties is by far reduction of CO2 emission, 79%, 49% zero fossil-based counterpart, 40% biodegradability, and 48% improvement of the health aspect of the material. In terms of expected socioeconomic and environmental impact by 2020, we monitor this aspect at 7 levels: scientific impact, education and society, market and industry impact, regional and local impact, job creation, growth of primary producer income, of primary producer revenue, and environmental impact. And to conclude, I will just illustrate the three last one. It is presented with this graph, the color code corresponding to the different type of action. And you can see that in terms of job creation, 55% of the project report job creation in rural region, 11% in coastal region, and 60% in product development and engineering. In terms of primary sector, primary producer income growth, 29 of the project announced a direct contribution to growth of the income of the primary sector. This is the reporting on environmental impact. Again, the color code orange, blue, and green corresponds to the different type of action. And you can see for the top four that 65% of the project expect that the bio-based product will lower the greenhouse gas emission versus their fossil alternative. 66% waste reduction, reuse, recycling, and valorization. 51% reduce energy consumption, and 45% improve land use. And again, all the detail on this reporting will be available on the annual activity report published at the latest 1st of July on our website. I'm close to the conclusion, and I want to come back on the contribution and the initiative on the systemic change. I mentioned the interim evaluation report of the BBI during my introduction speech, and I want to highlight those aspects. It was clearly demonstrated and highlighted that BBI is well aligned versus the initial challenges. SME participation is huge, and all BBI JU KPI are well on track. But the main positive aspect highlighted in the report, again, is the structuring effect with a value chain-driven cooperation across sectors, creating competitiveness in bio-based technologies. And second, the mobilizing effect of the initiative. Lessons learned, achievements, increasing mobilization in BBI calls, optimal value chain and feedstock coverage, new type of collaboration, the so-called structuring effect, very high SME participation, increasing interest from region, growing BBI JU awareness, also outside Europe. The industry, which announced huge investments, the portfolio of investment announced by big member in 2014 was 2 million. And in 2017, it rised to 5 billion euro of investment announced. We can see the first result of the widening participation strategy, and commonly we conclude often that Europe is back on the map of the attractive area where to invest in, but just the beginning of the story. It was my last slide. Thank you very much for your attention. And now I will give the floor to Gaia Fanteki, Head of Unit, Bio-Based Product and Process at the European Commission. Gaia, the floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank Philippe Mengal for his introduction and his presentation, and to express my delight to address you today. My talk will cover two main parts. I would like to provide you with the Commission views and rationale for the support to the bio-based sector and the BBI initiative. And secondly, I would like to give you an update of the state of play of the preparation of two Commission initiatives of major relevance for you, namely the update of the bioeconomy strategy and the 9th framework programme. I have been in this job long enough to be able to state that BBI is about to make major contributions to the political priorities of the Commission, not only the circular economy and climate policies, but also its growth and jobs agendas, and to our future as European citizens. The bio-based sector has proven to be the most dynamic part of the bioeconomy. According to the Commission's in-house science service, the rate of turnover growth of bio-based chemicals, pharmaceuticals, plastics, and rubber has been 22% between 2008 and 2014. For the forestry sector, it has been of 21%. So by comparison, this represents 3 times the average growth of the bioeconomy. In terms of jobs, the only bioeconomy job growth areas between 2008 and 2014 were chemicals, pharmaceuticals, and bioenergy biofuels. Bio-based industries have taken big strides in recent years to the point where bio-based products are now seen in markets including fine and commodity chemicals, healthcare, automotive, consumer goods, food and nutrition, construction. It is also becoming clear that many bio-based products are indeed more environmentally benign than their petrochemical and fossil equivalents. The BBI initiative is bringing about novel technologies and emerging innovations. The promise anticipated by the ongoing BBI projects is now about to bear tangible results as the projects resulting from the first calls are approaching completion. Today we share with you the information on the 2018 call for proposals to which the Commission contributes with 115 million euros. The call represents a great opportunity to leverage private investment, not only in kind, but also in cash. Indeed, this call comes just after the adoption of an amendment to the BBI JU Council regulation to allow counting cash contributions delivered also at project level. Indeed, the bio-based revolution needs public and private investment. This is why, complementary to the BBI, the Commission has included under its Horizon 2020 Societal Challenge 2 Work Programme 2018-2020 a new EU risk-sharing financial instrument. With a total contribution of 100 million euros, this financial instrument will aim at providing access to finance to innovative bioeconomy projects. This initiative follows the recommendation of a study by the European Investment Bank published in June last year, which identified funding gaps when projects are about to enter the demonstration or commercial phases. Ladies and gentlemen, let me now move to the second part of my intervention on the developments of the update of the bioeconomy strategy and FP9. The review of the bioeconomy strategy, carried out in 2017, concluded that the latter has been delivering on key actions. The launch of the BBI initiative and the mobilization of R&I funding by the EU itself and by member states are good examples of its success. The strategy has also played a major role in bringing bioeconomy policy to the international prominence, and it has been the catalyst for numerous similar strategies in EU member states and regions, as well as in other countries around the world. But the momentum brought by the 2012 bioeconomy strategy needs to be intensified. This is acknowledged by the industrial policy communication adopted in September last year, which announced an update of the bioeconomy strategy during this year. The Commission has published the roadmap of the initiative this February, and while the original strategy and its objectives remain as relevant and robust as before, there is a need for further coherence between EU policies and for an increased focus on the bioeconomy strategy, which should concentrate on a smaller number of key actions. Strengthen and upscale the bio-based sectors is one of the identified areas for action. Address to sustainably convert agriculture, forestry, marine and waste-based resources supporting industrial transformation and a circular bioeconomy, with all stakeholders' engagement and equitable sharing for primary producers. I will now say a few words on the next framework programme. We have gone through the bulk of the preparation of the Commission proposal for FP9 and have now 2 more months to fine-tune it before it is published by the end of May. As regards the budget, an indication will be given with the announcement of the Commission's overall 7-year spending proposal covering all policy areas scheduled for May the 2nd. The move from Horizon 2020 to the next framework programme is envisaged as an evolution and not a revolution. As with Horizon 2020, there will be a basic science pillar comprised of the ERC and the Marie Sklodowska-Curie researcher grants, a societal challenges sub-program, including missions, to apply science and technologies to solving big problems, and an open innovation portion, including Moeda's proposed European Innovation Council, to promote disruptive breakthrough innovation at EU level. Ladies and gentlemen, by this I would like to close my intervention by coming back to the 2018 BBI call for proposals. I urge all of you, all stakeholders, to respond with excellent quality proposals. We need to be effective in meeting the challenges, opportunities of bio-based industries and the whole bioeconomy. I therefore wish you and all of us the very best of luck in making this call a success story, and I also wish you a very productive day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gaia. We need to do a small change in the organization because Gaia will have other obligation and will have to leave us earlier. So I can open the floor in case they will have specific question for the European Commission. If no question, which means that it was crystal clear, thank you very much. So that we can move to the next speaker, Dirk Carré, Executive Director of BIC, the Bio-Based Industry Consortium.
I just have to say that this is my 5th Info Day, Philippe. And during these 5 years, a lot has changed. As you also will see, I will try to illustrate this in my presentation. So first of all, of course, let me introduce very fast the Bio-Based Industries Consortium. What is the Bio-Based Industries Consortium? We are the private partner in the public-private partnership that we have with the European Commission, which is of course a public partner, and the BBI is the instrument being the public-private partnership, or also called the joint undertaking. Today we have a bit more than 200 industry members, and these industry members are large industries, but as you see we have more than 160 SMEs in our membership. Or these SMEs are direct member, or they can be represented via regional SME clusters. And this is one of the reasons why SMEs are so successful also in the BBI. I think having the SMEs being active in the consortium, helping us to develop work programs, has a huge impact also on their success rate. And I think the SMEs are really the innovative power also in Europe. Very important, the companies, being large corporates or being SMEs, are covering different industrial sectors, from agriculture and agri-food to forestry, pulp and paper, technology providers, chemicals, materials, energy, aquatic, waste, and brand owners. And this is important because with the BBI, with the BBI, we try to focus on value chains. We don't just give grants to, let's say, single research projects. We always focus on value chains, from feedstock supply to developing new applications, bringing different stakeholders in a value chain so that at the end we can make this value chain concrete and also commercial at the end, of course. We also have 165 associate members, mainly universities, larger research institutes, but also technology platforms, some public institutions, regional organizations, more and more interest from the regions, and also some private banks, very important. And it is our mission, in fact, to build new, innovative, bio-based value chains in Europe. Try to keep the know-how, the knowledge that we develop in the research over the years, try to invest this in Europe, in new applications, in new productions, creating jobs and grow, and again, stimulating innovation. So the activities of BIC are, of course, being the private partner in the BBI, but as you have seen also, it is our task in collaboration with the public partner, the European Commission, to develop the SIRA, the Strategic research and innovation agenda, which is a bit the Bible, let's say, of what kind of projects can be funded under the umbrella of the BBI. We also develop the annual work plans, and we try to mobilize stakeholders, industry, research organizations, universities, regions, and other relevant stakeholders like financial institutes. What are the benefits, just for marketing reasons? As I said, the governance of the BBI, of course, the CIRA and the annual work programs. We also organize industry networking events. Why is this so important? Because in the beginning, I still remember 5 years ago, we had all kinds of different sectors in the bioeconomy. Today, by bringing them under one umbrella, we see growing collaborations between the chemical industry and the food industry because they want to valorize waste streams, collaborations between the pulp and paper industry and the textile industry, or the pulp and paper industry and the chemical industry. So we see new sectors coming in. So the fact that these industries start to talk to each other, they see synergies, they start to work together. And of course, very important, we also have the online partnering platform. We have specific brokerage events for all our, including the associate members. And we focus also a lot on access to finance, as I will show you a bit later. Now, as already mentioned by Gaia, the bio-based industries today is not a small economy. If we look to the turnover since 2008 to 2015, these are numbers based on Eurostat, then we see a small growth in the bioeconomy. But if we look to the bio-based part, so we leave out, let's say, the primary sector and we leave out the food, then we see also the last few years a growth. So the bio-based part is at this moment still the growing element in the whole bioeconomy. And as if you look to employment, more than 3.6 million people are employed in the bio-based economy today. On top of that, we have already quite many biorefineries in Europe. This is a mapping we did with Nova last year. We will do an update later this year. But we see many biorefineries, different kind of feedstock. And that's also quite important. I always, to simplify a bit, I say the US bioeconomy is mainly a corn-based bioeconomy, and in Brazil it's mainly a sugarcane-based bioeconomy. Since the beginning, the bioeconomy developed in Europe is based on different kinds of feedstock, which is not so simple because you have to invest more in research to tackle all these different kinds of feedstock, to valorize all these kind of feedstocks. But at the end, we really try to develop a sustainable bioeconomy in Europe. Now, as I said, this is my 5th Info Day. What is the impact that we see, that we observe from the BBI over these 5 years? As already mentioned by Philippe, we see finally a mobilization of private investment in Europe. What we really try to do is keep the knowledge and the innovation and the investments in production processes also in Europe. And you have seen also on the previous slides by Philippe the growing interest, the growing number of proposals also for demo and flagship projects, meaning companies that are willing to invest in this kind of new plans in Europe. We even have companies from outside of Europe that are now coming to Europe because they want to do some investments. And I think our President Trump is helping us a bit here. We see, as I said, a growing interest for BBI grants, including growing number of demo and flagship proposals. You have seen also the list already of the granted flagship and demos, but there are many more proposals that did not receive funding. We see, and that's very important, the development of new innovative value chains that really were not existing some years ago. And I'm talking now at industrial level. As I said, we see collaboration of food industry with chemical industry, the forestry, pulp and paper with textile industry. Many new industrial sectors are joining. Before we had the classical sectors, but today we also see that the food industry is joining the bio-based part, the non-food part, because they want to valorize side streams and waste streams. We see that the aquatic and the marine sectors are joining because they want to valorize side streams also. Also, the bio-waste management companies are joining because also, for the same reason, they want to valorize, not only produce biogas, for instance, but also produce other products. And due to that, we also observe a wider geographical spread. It is not because we don't have, to give an example, bio-based plastics companies in Eastern Europe that there is no feedstock availability, that the opportunities are not there in Eastern Europe, because they have the food companies and they can set up and develop local value chains. Policies like the circular economy are certainly helping us because due to the whole idea of circular economy, some sectors are now joining because they see opportunities to valorize some of their waste streams. And even more important, you will never invest in the production of a new product if there is no market. We see, and that's very important, we see a growing interest, a growing participation of brand owners from the car industry to the toy industry, the furniture industry, the packaging industry. And that's important because these companies are developing the new applications and bringing these applications to the market. And this is bringing the time between research and market, shortening the time between research and market. We see a growing interest of the regions, very interesting, because on top of the BBI, regions can also co-invest and set up also local value chains. And very important, there is a growing awareness from Eastern Europe, and they also see the opportunities, and we're working on that. Now, you also have seen in the slides that the success rate, certainly last year, was going down. There were many, many good proposals for demo and flagship projects that did not receive funding, which is a bit a waste of time and energy, but also a waste of opportunities for Europe. So what can we do to keep these investments also in Europe? So therefore, we try to work more intensively with regions, because regions can also use regional development funds to attract some investors to set up local value chains. We have made a document on how to combine BBI or Horizon funding with the European structural and investment funds, where we have developed some scenarios. And on the other hand, we are also developing, or we have developed, a document where regions describe themselves what kind of feedstocks they have, what kind of markets, what kind of players they have, what kind of incentives they have. This is a living document, so if there are additional regions that would like to have a two-pager in that document, you can always contact me during the day. The idea is that this is available, by the way, on the website, that companies or other stakeholders can contact the regions to see, what are the opportunities to do an investment in that region. And on top of that, we also published beginning of this year, an overview of other financial instruments. We heard already by Gaia of the new instrument that the Commission is setting up. That's still in progress. But we have already the European Structural and Investment Funds. We have Horizon and BBI, of course. There is the Juncker Funds, European Fund for Strategic Investments, and also the EIB has the Innofin, project, where they can support the development of projects and investments. And specifically also for the Eastern Europe, there's also an instrument less known, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, that also has specific funds to co-invest in Eastern Europe in the whole idea of circular economy and bio-based. Also, this document is available on the website. Now, we also have seen the slides by Philippe. There is a huge opportunity still to increase the participation of Central and Eastern European countries, because we still have to increase the awareness. There are a huge amount of feedstock. You have the food industry, you have the waste streams, so there are huge opportunities to attract investors and set up local value chains and to participate also in BBI projects. So to support this, we are developing several country reports, mapping the biomass and the feedstock potential of these countries. What are the actors covering the several value chains? What are the possible markets? What are the potential stakeholders? And beginning of this year, we have published on our website studies for Portugal, Poland, and Romania. And this year, we are working on the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. And as you will hear a bit later, there's a specific CSA in the 2018 program asking to or financing the development of at least 5 additional country reports for the regions or the countries indicated in red. So today on the website you find already these 3 reports, and the idea is that the CSA that is open now will continue to develop several of these reports, and this should really also help us to mobilize stakeholders in countries that today are less participating. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dirk. Now I want to invite Eleni Sika, head of the program unit of the BBI JU. Eleni will now illustrate research priorities and the novelties of the call 2018.
Thank you very much. Dirk is a tough act to follow. This is my very first info day, so I'm going to have to bring it down to my level. So, Dirk, I can't compete clearly. Huh? So, thank you all very much for being here with us today. I would like to take the opportunity as head of program in BBI JU to welcome you also and to thank you for your very, let's say, enthusiastic participation. I'm going to give you an overview of what the annual work program for 2018 actually looks like. And although I will not go into the nitty-gritty details of every specific topic, I will try to give you some highlights of the main priorities and orientations that are laid out in this annual work program, as well as the novelties that have been introduced this year. So with this, I will, just as I mentioned, go over some type of actions, the budget, and the topics that we have at a high level of detail. And I will give you an indication of the timing that will entail in this call. But more details on certain aspects will be introduced and further outlined by my colleagues in my program unit team that will follow in the later session. And I will close with some remarks and main conclusions and thoughts for you and your preparation for your proposals in this year's call. Philippe introduced this slide very, very briefly just to highlight the importance of the CIRA, which, as Dirk also mentioned, is actually the Bible for our program. And it has been recently updated. Philippe already and Dirk touched upon the main novelties of CIRA 2017. What I wanted to highlight here is actually how the process works in developing our annual work program. Some of you may be familiar already, but those who are new to this process should be aware. So the CIRA sets out the main orientations in terms of strategy with a vision up to 2020. But of course, this is translated every year in an operational annual work plan, which defines basically the main orientations for the call that will be published in conjunction with that annual work program. The drafting is done by BIC. They are in the leading role in this process. The program is obviously negotiated, discussed, consulted upon, and approved with the European Commission. And BBI JU supports the whole process throughout the way. The annual work program, which is then translated into a call, actually includes a call for proposals in terms of different types of actions, and I will tell you what those are in the next slides. And then those calls are actually invite proposals. The proposals are assessed, and at the end we have a selection of projects which upon signature become projects for a period of time between 3 and 5 years. And then we, on BBI JU, actually monitor the whole project portfolio throughout that period. The strategic orientations were already presented to you by Philippe earlier on, and Dirk touched upon those as well. We have moved away from, let's say, traditional value chain approach, going into a more inclusive approach that is multi-value chain. And the main orientations are around the supply of sustainable biomass in a way that is more expanding and more diversified. And strategic orientation covers the optimization of efficient processing for integrated biorefineries. And the idea here is also not only to improve efficiency, but also sustainability, as well as foster the development of new processing approaches. Strategic Orientation 3 is focusing on the development of innovative bio-based products for identified market applications. So one of the main goals here is to increase applicability, but also avoid competition with price competition with fossil-based products. And of course, Strategic Orientation 4 is much more, let's say, cross-cutting, and this is looking at basically how we can respond to concerns of society with respect to the bio-based innovation and products in particular. So the idea is really to study how we can create and accelerate the market uptake of bio-based products and applications. And you will see that those strategic orientations are very much respected throughout the themes of the annual work program of this year, and some of it had already been introduced last year with the call of 2017. In this graphic, I just wanted to show you visually how this strategic orientation matrix fits with allocation of topics in the 2018 call. And you will see that for strategic orientation 1, around feedstock, we have 3 dedicated topics, research and innovation, as well as demonstration actions. Several for strategic orientation 2, so processing for integrated biorefineries, as demos as well as RIAs. Several around the development of innovative bio-based products. The topic codes are listed on the right. And we have 3 specific CSA topics that are looking at the market uptake issues that I mentioned just earlier. I wanted to say that, of course, BBI JU is not only aiming at delivering products to the market, consolidating the bio-based sectors. We're trying to do that in a way that is closely monitored throughout the lifetime of the projects and throughout the lifetime of the program. And BBI JU is very unique in this sense because the way we monitor our progress is set out already in the SIRA with 8 specific KPIs. So KPI 1, which is looking at new cross-sector interconnections. Philippe already showed you some expected results that are being reported already at the level of the projects. And this is something that we monitor on an annual basis. KPI 2 is looking at new bio-based value chains. KPI 3 is looking at the number of BBI JU cooperation projects. KPI 4, new bio-based building blocks, new bio-based materials, bio-based consumer products with KPI 6. And then there has been a novelty in the updated SIRA with introduction of the KPI 8, which is looking at the TRL gain in technologies. And of course, socioeconomic impact is all very closely monitored at the level of the projects and at the program. So what I wanted to say, because this is so much embedded in the way we monitor our progress, of course, all these KPIs are very much linked and referred to in respective topics in this annual work program, as has been done in the past for previous calls. So just to give you an idea, all topics address KPI 3, obviously, as well as socioeconomic impact. There are KPIs which are specific to RIAs. So, for example, KPI 8 with the TRL jump in technology development. KPI 6 is obviously specific to innovation actions, and KPI 7 concretely refers to flagships. And then KPI 1, 2, 4, and 5 are present in all type of actions as well. I wanted to highlight this because they're all assessed during the evaluation, and the evaluation criteria are built around that in terms of impact. So be very mindful of that when you prepare your proposals. So we're not just about funding projects, we're really about achieving results which can be measured. What are the highlights of this call? We are already, I mentioned earlier, this is my first info day, but this is already the 5th call of BBI JU. We are, let's say, nearing the finish line for the program. There are only 2 calls left after 2018. But there are some trends that remain constant. So there's still a very strong focus, as I've just mentioned, on impact and KPIs. So you have to present proposals that are impactful, and you can clearly demonstrate that. This year's call, in line very much with the updated SIRA, widens the scope in terms of feedstock, so it's much more inclusive. We include urban biowaste in demos, for example. We include innovative processes such as electrochemical modeling for certain topics, as well as new products, new bio-based aromatics, coatings, etc. There's also a very specific focus on the improvement of logistical and pre-processing steps of local biomass resources for both RIA and demo topics. So this is also another, let's say, novelty. And as I've mentioned earlier, we very much promote with this call, in line with the CIRA, the multi-value chain approach. So this idea of structuring effect and, let's say, cross-sector interconnections that are new in different ways is very much stressed. Another important novelty in this year's call is that we have 6 dedicated RIA topics, which cover lower TRL, so from 1 to 3. And I will be talking to you in a little bit more detail in a moment, but also my colleagues will be discussing with you the specific eligibility conditions that pertain to those topics. The types of actions, some of you may be already familiar with. We have research and innovation actions which cover TRL levels from 3 to 5 at the end of the project. Demos, which are looking at the demo scale production, developing demo scale production facilities in Europe, so TRL 6 to 7. And of course, I would say the most important specificity of BBI JU, the development of first-in-kind application large-scale production facilities, flagships in Europe. So this is the idea to address the whole value chain from feedstock sourcing all the way up to market applications. The novelty I mentioned earlier was the inclusion of RIAs that fill specific gaps in value chains, and those are dedicated topics that cover TRL levels at the lower end of the scale, at the 1 to 3. And of course, we have the CSA actions, which are addressing non-technological challenges for value chains and the bio-based industries. And I will be telling you what those are in a moment. The TRL scale, I think most of you are probably familiar with. The topics which are dedicated RIAs 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 11 are the novelty. So we're looking at anything from proposals addressing basic principles observed or experimental proof of concept. The RIAs address 4 to 5, so technologies that are already validated in a lab or in a relevant environment. Demos are looking really at technologies that are demonstrated in a relevant environment and also can be in an operational environment, I should say. And of course, flags are addressing systems which are complete, qualified, ready to be brought to the market. This is the budget distribution in Call 2018. We have 41 million euros assigned to research and innovation actions with 11 topics, 30 million euros for demos with 5 topics dedicated to this type of action, 42 million euros for 2 topics of flagships, and 2 million euros for 3 topics of CSAs. And there is a dedicated budget of 15 million euros for the 6 RIA topics, which should have an end TRL of 3. And I should say the additional eligibility condition there is to have at least one big member that is not eligible for funding, so effectively large industry. The total indicative budget for this year's call is 150 million euro for 21 topics. So as Philippe mentioned, we are in a better situation than in call 2017. So please do apply. The competition will nevertheless remain quite fierce, I believe. I wanted to point out as well that as we are indeed an industry-driven program, substantial resources from industry are also expected, and there is an estimated value that is announced in the annual work program of in-kind contributions of minimum 45 million euros. So please be very mindful of that also when you prepare your proposals. Now, the RIA topics are looking at filling gaps in the value chain by developing other building blocks, products, technologies, or processes. There's 26 million euros earmarked to the 5 RIA topics, and about 2 to 5 million euro are normally allocated per proposal. So we're looking at, in terms of feedstock, the valorization of aquaculture, fisheries, aquatic biomass. So this is very much an inclusive approach that was mentioned earlier, with widening the scope of the feedstock. We're looking at improvement of biocatalytic processes with topic R2, new technologies for pulping industries with topic R3. And in terms of products, we are aiming at looking at functional molecules for bio-based coatings with R9, as well as biodegradable, compostable, recyclable as well products for packaging with R10. The 6 RIA topics that are earmarked with this additional eligibility criterion of having at least one constituent entity of BIC that is not eligible for funding, so effectively large industry, as I mentioned earlier, have 15 million euro allocated in total. So we're looking at 1 to 2.5 million euro per proposal. And the idea here is really to address, in terms of strategic orientation too, especially advanced technologies for biomass that contain inhibitors, single-step conversion processes, emerging breakthrough technologies, electrochemical processes, as well as computational modeling systems. So that gives you a flavor of the types of topics, of the types of proposals that are expected under those topics. And in products, we expect to have proposals that are dealing with bio-based aromatics. For demos, we have 30 million euro earmarked for this type of action, and we're looking again at improving the logistical and pre-processing steps of locally sourced biomass. Valorization of mixed urban biowaste. This is also another area of focus that is very much strengthened with the CIRA update and with this call. We're looking at processes that valorize sugar from lignocellulosic biomass with topic D3. And in terms of products, we're looking at bio-based pesticides and fertilizers, as well as functional ingredients that have high performance. And with respect to flagships, we have 42 million euro allocated to this type of action. And we're really focusing here at SO3 effectively, so looking at large-scale production of competitive bio-based building blocks, polymers, and materials that are actually outperforming existing market applications. So the benefits of those products has to be clearly demonstrated. Another topic, so F2, is addressing the large-scale production of proteins for food and feed applications from alternative and sustainable resources. And finally, the CSA topics in this call have a budget of 2 million euro for 3 CSA topics. That is, I'm sorry, 2 million euro per proposal. And there are 3... Sorry? Not per proposal. It is not per proposal? Okay, I will... Yes, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. That is in contrast to my previous slide. So 2 million euro in total for this project. There's clear demand, I can see. So hopefully we will be able to address it appropriately. Be ready for the competition. Yeah. So the focus of these CSA topics are around the creation of a coherent and stimulating environment for the sustainable bio-based industry in Europe, S1. S2 is looking at expanding the bio-based industry across Europe, and the S3 is looking at identifying opportunities that can promote careers, education, and research activities in the European bio-based industry. And I would like to say that this focus on education and career promotion is something which is very novel and of high political relevance as well. So in terms of the timetable that you should keep in mind, we've already opened the call last week. The deadline for the proposals will be 6th of September. Don't wait until last minute. That would be really a shame if you worked very, very hard to prepare your proposal and submit it a minute later than what the system allows. It happens. So please be mindful of that. The evaluation process takes around 5 months, and I should say we're always very much striving in the office to deliver your results and your feedback by the end of the year. But the official deadline is 5 months after the submission deadline. And of course, the signature of the grant agreements usually takes place maximum 8 months after the proposal submission. So around beginning of May, all grants will have been signed. Now, some final remarks from my side, just to wrap up the session. It has been mentioned already very clearly, this annual work program opens up new areas and opportunities for bio-based industries, not only by widening the scope that we have in terms of feedstock and processes, products and applications, but also for the first time offering opportunities for lower TRL level technology. So with 6 dedicated RIA topics that should address technologies and breakthrough innovations at the level of TRL 1 to 3. It continues to open new cross-cutting opportunities, so opportunities for collaboration cross-sector, further emphasizing this multi-value chain approach, and especially focusing on developing products with new functionalities that have stark improvements as compared to the fossil-based alternatives. There is still a very strong focus on facilitating investment at large scale, so with a clear focus on flags. And we're looking at addressing also local logistical challenges, with the RIAs, the demos, and dedicated CSAs. So it is really about being inclusive for all actors, and I would like to say so across regions and borders. So this cross-fertilization and collaboration is very much a positive effect of BBI JU, and we want to continue to emphasize that. I don't want you to forget about the impact, the focus on impact and our KPIs. It's really about delivering impact through your projects for the bio-based industry sector. It is something that is being looked at very, very carefully, not only during the assessment, but during the lifetime of the projects once they are selected. So do prepare that carefully. And we are an industry-driven program, so clear industry commitment in your proposals has to prevail, or it has to be very clearly demonstrated. So with that, I would like to thank you very much, and I would like to thank you for your correction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eleni. So in the program, we have a full Q&A session just before the lunch. But I see that online we didn't receive any question, but maybe we have some minutes before coffee break. If there are questions, it's the right moment. Yes, please.
I have two questions. The first one is if you can answer, I think everybody would be interested in knowing this is an important question. How many projects per topic are expected to be funded, if you have an idea, or maybe also based on past figures? And the other question is, I don't really understand the rationale for requiring the mandatory participation in the RIA projects of at least one constituent entity of the bio-based industry. That, in addition, is not eligible for funding. I think this is should be a big hurdle. And whereas this requirement is not in a demonstration product. What is the rationale?
Okay. I will leave the second point to Dirk shortly to answer the first one. We don't have crystal ball, but what we would expect is to have between 150 to 200 proposals looking at the trends, then to be divided by the topic. But it's just a question of trend. We see a growing mobilization of actors. There was a whole process for selecting the topics, so we know by principle there is a certain interest. The budget this year is bigger than last year. So what I would say 150 to 200 divided by the amount of topic. I don't remember the exact amount, but we will see. I leave the floor to Dirk for the second very pertinent question as well.
Yes, this is indeed a very good question, because normally, first of all, the calls in the BBI are always open. I mean, open to big and non-big members, industry, non-industry. That's a general procedure. Now, normally, it is a public-private partnership, and the focus is on industrial deployment. That's the focus also of the BBI. So normally, in the normal RIA projects, with, let's say, the higher TRLs, in the demo projects, or in a flagship project, if you want to tick all the impact criteria mentioned in the call, you have to include companies. You will not go to a flagship or a demo or even upscaling if you don't have a company being big member or not big member involved. That's crucial and that's important. So this year, in fact, there's an exception for a few RIA topics where there was a general demand, also an agreement to go to lower TRLs, but to be certain that also for these lower TRLs, project proposals only propose projects where there's also an industrial interest, because that's important. It is foreseen that there is one additional criteria, that there is a big member involved that will not receive funding to do the research. On top of that, that's internal. We have an internal agreement with the big members that on top of, let's say, the grant, these companies should also bring in cash in the budgets of these proposals. And this is really to show that these proposals, even at lower TRL, to be certain that there is an industrial interest also for these lower TRL, which are important because these will be, let's say, the industrial economic projects for the future. So, but this is an exception. This is only for a few projects.
This is just my opinion. I mean, it's, but I think that this is going to be really a big hurdle. It's going to hinder the development of research and innovation projects, especially for the university. I mean, I understand that it's necessary, the participation of an industry, but restricting the field only to industry that are BBI funding members, it's an additional strong limitation. Thank you.
My question, of course, refers to the fact why the CSA has been decreased so much, the budget for the CSA. And the second point is why there is no provision for CSA related to consumer participation, consumer awareness, while this has been identified during the BBI JU Stakeholder Forum as one of the key elements. So I would like to know why. Thanks.
Maybe if you see the budget for the CSAs, there are different budgets foreseen for the different kind of projects. And indeed, your question on consumer awareness, we have also seen that when we were looking with the companies for what kind of CSAs could be funded, we have seen that there are so many projects already funded and we are not aware of it, under Horizon, under BBI, under Interreg projects. So the very first topic of the CSA, with a small budget, is really a 1 year, let's say a small project, 1 year to really make an overview of all these projects that have been funded already, but most of the people are not aware of it. So how can we use better the results of the projects that have been funded in the past, make it public, and then build on that. And that's the whole idea. And that is why we have a small CSA with low budget, but a short period, so that we can use it. Because what you just mentioned, several of these projects have been funded already today. But, you know, the project stops and then the results are forgotten somewhere. So let's make it more visible, let's use it, and let's build on that in the future. That's the idea of that short CSA.
Yes, please.
Thank you. I have two short questions. One is in Ms. Zika's presentation. It was indicated that the budget for D5 call was 6 million per euro. I think it should be 7 million per euro. So if you could confirm that. And my second question is about the in-kind contributions. So this is something different than the typical Horizon 2020 projects. My question is, what portion of the in-kind contributions should be cash? For example, I'm from a research institute and the university is willing a property, a sort of space for the BBI project. For example, the leasing value of that property, would that be counted as a in-kind contribution? Thank you.
I would like to confirm, but I can confirm back to you during the booth if you want to come and see me. I mean, I have to come back and look at the figures, but I think it was taken directly from the text. But let me confirm back to you during the booth session, okay? For the second, maybe Marta can take the second question for the income.
So, for the second question, no, we cannot indicate, we don't have concrete percentage of what should be in-kind contribution in cash or in-kind contribution as ICOP. We don't have it. What we have is that it will be evaluated under the impact. There is a specific criterion in the call. You can find it in our plan in the table. So there, the experts will go proposal by proposal and will identify which is the consortium on contribution including if there is financial contribution, if there is income, and they will make the link about what is this proportion and how this contribution will help maximize the impact of the action. So there is, we have examples in the guide for applicants about how this can be presented. In the guide for applicants, there is also indicated the correct section to indicate all these in-kind contributions. But it will be up to the experts to come and really look into the proposal and see how this consortium on contribution, how these in-kind contributions will help maximize the impact of the action.
Okay, thank you very much. So you will have time again for other questions you could think about. All the speakers will be there. We are also available during the coffee break or lunch break. And now it's time for a good coffee. Can I ask you to come back straight at 11:30 for the session 3 and the session 4? Thank you very much.
there's so much we can do. Huh?
Okay, can we start, please? So, welcome in the second part of this morning, the session number 3. At the end of this session, you will know everything about call management rules and conditions, submission and evaluation proposal process, and how to write a good BBI JU proposal. And if you are not yet an expert, they will have room for questions during the Q&A session at the end, just before the lunch that will take place at 1 p.m. So I will immediately give the floor to Pilar Llorente, Project Officer at BBI JU, who will explain you the call management rules and conditions.
Welcome, all of you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Well, now that you have learned about the priorities and content of the annual work program 2018, I would like to go into more detail into the practical things, rules for participation and funding schemes. Let me just recall how BBI implement its objectives. You have already learned we fund 3 types of actions. Research and innovation actions, which go to NTRLs from 3 to 5. Innovation actions, which comprise demos and flagships, going demos from 6 and 7 at the end, and flagships to TRL 8. And also we fund coordination and support actions, which are dealing with non-technological challenges of the bio-based industries. Let's keep these 3 types of actions in mind because they also play a role in the rules for participation and funding schemes. So let's start with the legal and financial aspects. Most of you very familiar with Horizon 2020 rules. Well, just know the BBI calls follow exactly the Horizon 2020 rules for participation, except for 2 specificities. There is no BBI funding for large companies in research and innovation actions and CSAs, and there is an additional eligibility condition for some research and innovation topics in Call 2018, as you've already learned from the presenters before. I will go into more detail later on. But let me just stress the importance of reading the following 3 documents, which you can find in our BBI website. First of them, the BBI Annual Work Plan 2018. Then you can find all the topics, priorities, and also legal and financial information for submitting your proposals. The BBI Guide for Applicants, which you can also find in the website, contains all the details on the structure and how to present a clear and well-structured proposal. And last but not least, the frequently asked question document will provide you with very good tips for preparing a successful proposal. So, who can apply to the BBI calls? The same way as in Horizon 2020, any legal entity from all over the world can apply for our program. This means any natural or legal person created and registered under national law. This can be big or small company, research organization, universities, NGOs, etc. And this also includes international organizations and participants from non-EU or non-Horizon 2020 associated countries. So all of the legal entities can participate in our program. What about the consortium composition? For CSA's actions, it is enough with one single entity. One entity can present a proposal. For research and innovation actions, we are looking for collaborative projects. This means you need at least to have 3 legal entities established in at least 3 different member states and or associated countries. And these entities must be independent from each other. The size of the consortium is up to you to decide, and it will depend on the scope and objectives of your project. There is one important novelty in Call 2018 that was already highlighted before. There is an additional eligibility condition for some RIA topics. These are R4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 11. And it is the following. Consortium must contain at least one constituent entity of the bio-based industries consortium that it is a beneficiary not eligible for funding. This means consortium needs to contain a big member that it is a large company. So we've just said that all participants, all entities around the world can participate. But which legal entities are eligible for funding? The following ones are automatically eligible for funding. These are those coming from EU and Horizon 2020 associated countries, and also those entities from countries listed in the Annex A of the Horizon 2020 work program. Those entities that are not automatically eligible for funding are those coming from industrialized countries and emerging economies. However, some of these countries provide with co-funding mechanisms to help these entities participate in BBI programs. There are some exceptions if there is a bilateral agreement in place or if the country is identified as essential for a given topic in the annual work plan. Let me just go into more detail into the funding rates per type of action for different type of entities. So for research and innovation actions and CSAs, coordination and support actions, funding rate is 100%, with one exception we mentioned before, large companies, which are not entitled for funding. As for the innovation actions, the general funding rate is 70% of the total eligible cost, reaching up to 100% for those entities that are non-profit, such as universities, NGOs, RTOs, etc. So by now, you know BBI is a public-private partnership. It's an industry-driven program, and that means that leveraging private investments is crucial for us. These private investments can be provided through the consortium on contribution, which consists of 3 forms of investments. In-kind contributions are the costs incurred by the partners and for which they are not requesting funding. So these are easily identifiable in the budget. In-kind contributions are total eligible cost minus funding requested. We have also the financial contributions. These are financial transfers from one partner to the other for them to carry out a given activity within the work plan of the project. Moreover, we have the additional investments. These are investments that are not directly related to activities in the work plan of the project, but to other investments that contribute to the overall objectives of the BBI initiative. These can be infrastructure, facilities, durable equipment, among others. So when you are preparing your proposal, where should you include, where should you explain this consortium on contributions? As for the in-kind contributions, as we said, they refer to activities carried out within the work plan, which means these activities will be explained throughout the proposal. and the in-kind contributions will be clear, identifiable in the budget table. So no further explanations are needed. As for the financial contributions, you'll have to refer to them in two places. In the Part A, when you prepare your proposal, you will find a call-specific question asking you, are you providing with financial contributions, with in-cash contributions? And there you will need to indicate the quantitative description, so how much. And in Part B, in the section 3.4, resources to be committed, you'll have to include a table containing information on the beneficiaries providing the contributions, beneficiaries receiving them, the amount of these contributions, and the activities where they will be used. You'll find this table in the guide for applicants. As for the additional investments, you will also find a call-specific question in Part A asking you if you are providing them and how much they are. And in Part B, in section 3.4, you'll also have to include a table. You can find it in the guide for applicants, where you break down those investments, explain the partners providing them, and also to what extent, how they contribute to the objectives of the BBI. Let's have a look at a couple of examples taken from the guide for applicants. This is how a budget table looks like. You can see all the different categories of costs. And let's start with the example for research and innovation actions and CSAs. As you know, these funding rates are 100% with the exception of the large companies which are not entitled for funding. So here we can have a look, for example, at the university with a total estimated cost of 437,000 euro, of which they can request the full amount. Something similar occurs for the SME with 500,000 total cost, of which they can request all the amount. However, looking at the large industry, we are seeing they have a budget of 1,750,000 euro, but they are not entitled for funding. So in this budget table, how can we see the in-kind contributions? Well, these are the total estimated cost, 3,562,000, minus the requested grant, 1,812,000. That's to say 1,750,000 euro in-kind contributions. Now let's have a look at the financial regime of innovation actions, where the funding rates are 70% for all entities except for the non-profit organizations, which can claim up to the 100% of their costs. And this is again the case for the RTO. For example, you can see total estimated cost 550, 100% funded rate, they can claim 550,000 euro. If we go to, for example, an SME, we see they are entitled up to 70% of the costs. In this case, SME's total cost is 1,070,000 euro, of which they can claim 752,000 euro. Going the large industry, the same financial regime is applicable. In that case, in our example, you can see that they can claim up to 7,437,000 euro, the 70% of their total eligible cost, but they do claim less. They claim 4,872,000 euro, and thereby increasing your in-kind contributions. Of course, entities are always welcome to request less than they are entitled to, thereby increasing their in-kind contributions. Let me just finish with some takeaway messages that are important for you to bear in mind. BBI follows exactly the same Horizon 2020 rules and financial regime, with two exceptions. No BBI funding is given for large industries in RIA and CSA's actions, and there is an additional eligibility condition for some RIA topics in this call. BBI is a public-private partnership, and it's an industry-driven program. This means leveraging private investments is crucial for us. These private investments, the consortium on contribution, can take the form of three different kinds of contributions: in-kind contributions, financial contributions, and additional activities. Let me remind you that these will be assessed during the evaluation of the proposal in the impact criterion, as my colleagues will explain you later on. And my last advice, read carefully the 3 documents I mentioned at the beginning, Annual Work Program 2018, Guide for Applicants, and Frequently Asked Questions, because they will certainly help you to prepare a successful proposal. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Pilar. Now I invite Paloma Mallorquin, Project Officer at BBI JU. Paloma will explain you the process of submission and evaluation of proposals.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Philip, for the introduction. Processes and deadlines. This is something we all have to deal with in our lives. And when submitting a proposal, it's very important to have a clear understanding of the process that you will be facing in order to meet on time the deadlines. During my presentation, I will briefly describe how to submit a proposal and the next steps to be followed, including the evaluation of the proposal and the grant agreement preparation of those successful proposals. I will also provide some practical information that you should pay attention before finalizing your proposal, and I hope that it will help you to have a clear overview of the whole process you will be facing. As soon as you have your idea translated into a proposal using the BBI JU template, the coordinator will submit the proposal in the participant portal, which, as you know, is the European Commission IT tool supporting different EC programs, including Horizon 2020. Sorry, it's the one for Horizon 2020. And as BBI JU is following Horizon 2020 rules, we use also this IT tool for the process. Here you can see the coordinator profile in the participant portal using the online wizard of the electronic submission system. That is an online wizard that guides the user step by step in the process of preparing and submitting the proposal. You can see on the top of the page different steps and the step in which you are, in this case, create a draft proposal. On the left side, you can see specific information on the topic, on the deadlines, and this is very important. This is the only place where you will be able to download the Part B templates that you have to use and upload to complete the proposal. During the preparation of the proposal, you can receive 2 types of warnings. One is a blocking warning, is labeled as an error, and you should pay attention to the information that is displayed, because otherwise you cannot submit the proposal. And the second one is a non-blocking issue, is labeled as a warning, and doesn't prevent you to submit the proposal, but you have to take into account the information and the recommendations that are displayed. I advise the coordinators to check the Horizon 2020 online manual, because it gives an overview of all the different steps that you need to know for this electronic submission of your proposal. It's an easy navigation process steps, and it provides also a brief description on how to complete your task. Once again, I would like to remind you, please do not wait until the very last minute to submit your proposal. We have experienced situations in which the proposal was submitted a few seconds after the call deadline, and it's very unfortunate, this waste of time, this waste of effort of so many people working so many months, and waste all this effort because of a late submission. Once the call when the call deadline is reached, BBI JU will perform the admissibility and eligibility check. Because all the proposals has to fulfill certain conditions of admissibility and eligibility that I will explain a bit. By admissibility criteria, we mean that the proposal is submitted via the official online system that I already mentioned and before the call deadline. And it has to be readable, accessible, and printable. It has to be complete. We check that the proposal has all the relevant administrative forms, that the proposal description and any supporting documents are present. We also check that the proposal has a draft plan for dissemination and exploitation of the result, and we check that they respect the page limit, which is different for RIA and IA, and for CSA, for example. For the eligibility criteria, what do we check? For the eligibility criteria, we check that the contents of the proposal are in line with the topic description in the call. Please, those coordinators preparing more than one proposal for different topics, please ensure that you upload the correct information, because we have experienced these cases of submitting, especially Part B, to the wrong topic. We check that the proposals fulfill the standard eligibility criteria for Horizon 2020, as for example, RIA and Innovation Actions. They have at least 3 legal entities established in a different member states or associated country, and we check any other eligibility conditions set out in the call or topic page. In this case, as a novelty, as you have already heard from the previous presenters, we have a novelty in this call 2018 for a specific RIA topic targeting lower TRLs, and they have to fulfill an additional eligibility criterion. Where to find relevant information in the participant portal for this additional eligibility criterion for when preparing your proposal? When downloading these Part B templates, you will download also an Excel file containing 2 sheets of information. One is dedicated to provide specific information on this eligibility condition, and there is another sheet in the Excel file which is a template specifically dedicated to complete the big participation, and you will have to upload this Excel file in the step 5 of when preparing your proposal, in the step edit proposal. There you will be able, as you see in the arrow I've highlighted, where to upload the call-specific eligibility condition. After we check the eligibility and the admissibility of all the proposals, BBI JU will organize the evaluation of the proposals. BBI JU people, personnel, we are not evaluating the proposals. The proposals are evaluated by independent external experts. These experts have to sign a specific confidentiality agreement, and they have to declare that they have no conflict of interest participating as evaluator of a BBI JU proposal. The minimum requirement of experts for proposals as evaluator is 3. But we make our best to ensure the highest quality during the evaluation process, and BBI proposals are evaluated from 4 to 5 experts, each proposal. So the first step of the evaluation is a remote individual evaluation. All the experts work remotely, individually, and evaluate the proposal based on the Horizon 2020 evaluation criteria. Afterwards, they gather in Brussels to discuss and agree via consensus on the final score of the proposals. In order to support a better evaluation of the proposals, we organize hearings for flagships. This is only specific for flagships. And the coordinators and the experts will have the opportunity to discuss on issues related to TRL and business case, business plan. These are the only 2 aspects of the proposal which will be addressed. The expert eventually can can ask additional information only if it derives from the original proposal. And it's also very important to know that the coordinator will receive in advance the questions that the expert will be asking to them in order to get prepared before the hearings. In parallel with this scientific evaluation, we organize also the ethics evaluation, the ethics review, which is an essential part of the evaluation process. Those proposals with no ethics clearance, with no ethics approval, are not considered eligible for funding. So please ensure of, be careful of all the ethic issues in your proposal and complete carefully the Part A of the administrative forms of your proposal for the ethics self-assessment. After the ethics evaluation is complete, then the expert will draft a list of proposals for possible funding. And right afterwards, the expert will have to finalize, let's say, the list through a ranking list, where the successful proposal for funding will be identified. This rank list has to be adopted, meaning approved by our governing board, and only after this approval of our governing board, the beneficiaries, the coordinator, will receive a notification via the participant portal with the evaluation result letter, inviting them to the grant agreement preparation phase of the proposal. Our experts use the same scoring system as Horizon 2020. We follow the same rules, meaning a range between 0 and 5, from poor or not meeting a criteria to excellent. They use the whole range. And they have also 4 thresholds. They have individual threshold for the individual evaluation criteria, 3 for excellence and implementation, 4 for impact, and 11 for the sum of the 3 individual scores. You will see that it's not a mathematical sum. It's 1 point more. So it's not only necessary to pass the individual score, but the total score. And additionally, for innovation action, please note that to determine the ranking, the score for the criterion impact will be given a weighting of 1.5. And this is quite also in line with the BBI. BBI is an industry-driven program. We really want the impact to be taken into consideration. I would like to make a remark on the competition within the budget line during the evaluation of the proposals and the consequence of this competition within the budget line. By budget line, you will see that in the call 2018, we have 5 budget lines, 1 for CSA, 2 different for RIAs, 1 for demo, and 1 for flagships. And we have more than 1 topic in a budget line. For all the different budget lines, we have more than 1 topic. What is the consequence of having this competition within the budget line? The consequence is that it's not only important to have a unique idea, this idea needs to be also excellent because it will be competing with other proposals submitted and the different topics in the same budget line. This is why we are looking for high-quality proposals here. After the evaluation is finished, the grant preparation starts. So the coordinator is invited to start the grant agreement preparation phase. This process is supported online through the participants portal. Please note that you have to follow your proposal, meaning that because there is no negotiation in Horizon 2020, the grant agreement and the annexes must not be different from the one that you were submitting. So be careful what you write in your proposal because it's translated into a commitment via the grant agreement preparation, which is a contract. So it will become a contractual obligation. And we have to respect for this process, we have to respect the time frame that is already mentioned. So it has to be signed at latest 8 months after the call deadline. At this point, I would like to make three advices, especially for the self-assessment, because especially for SMEs participating in RIA and CSAs, since large industries are not entitled to receive funding, they have to confirm via a self-assessment that is performed in the participant portal. They have to confirm that they are SMEs. If they don't confirm by the time of the signature that they are SMEs, they won't be receiving any funding. This is a very big issue. So please check in advance. You can check in the participant portal. There's a specific dedicated tool to check the SME status and confirm that indeed your SME is an SME in your country of origin and within the European standards. Following the same principle, please ensure before submitting your proposal that your coordinator has the financial viability to be a coordinator so that he can receive the pre-financing. They have to demonstrate they have financial viability. Those coordinators receiving more than 750,000, which is for BBA, all the cases, they have to provide this financial viability self-check. And it's available also in the participant portal. So please, these two self-check-ins, I really advise you to check it in advance, to perform them in advance. And the last, let's say, advice, it's linked to the consortium agreement. My suggestion is to circulate a draft version of the grant agreement as soon as possible, including the IPR-related issues, because the signature of the consortium agreement is the most common reason for failing during grant agreement preparation. And the consortium agreement needs to be signed. It's compulsory to be signed before the grant agreement signature. So these are the three main points I would like to highlight for a successful grant agreement signature. So if you succeed in preparing all these elements and in fulfilling all the different steps of the process, you will be required to sign the grant agreement. BBI will sign the grant agreement. Everything is done electronically, and you will become part of our class of 2018 graduates. If you're thinking about contribute to BBI, we warmly invite you to become a BBI JU evaluator if you have BBI JU related expertise. BBI is covering, as you have seen in the topics description of this annual work plan, covers really broad fields. So we have complex proposals, and we want to have the highest quality in the evaluation. And to have the highest quality, we need different expertise to assess these proposals. The Call 2018 Expert Evaluator invitations are about to be sent. So my suggestions, if you don't have registered yet, register and send us an email to this functional expert mailbox. How can you register as an expert? Quite easy. We operate under ISO 2020 rules. So our experts are part of the database of experts in the participant portal, and there is a dedicated section that you can find there. There are now, I think that it's 139 days before the next BBI JU deadline. So please ensure that you have all the answers to any questions you may have in order to reach on time the deadline. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paloma. Before moving to the next presentation, Eleni wanted to make a specific point to complement the presentation.
Yeah, so I hope you can all hear me. I think it has been perhaps not very explicit, the fact that, of course, we expect cash contributions in the dedicated RIA topics, but this is possible for all topics announced in this annual work program. So for those of you who may wonder, please do not hesitate when you prepare your proposals to consider that. And another clarification with respect to the question asked earlier about the budget of D5, it is indeed 7 million euros, so that is the figure is correct in the call brochure, and it was wrong in my slide, so I apologize for that.
Okay, thank you very much. Now I invite Polybios Hadjiangou. Polybios is call coordinator within BBI JU, and he will explain you how to write a good BBI JU proposal.
Thank you, Philip. I think I have to follow the same example of Dirk. Yeah. So it takes some time. Okay. I think it's better. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure to be here with you today. I'm really happy to see new faces, which is a fact, a sign that the BBI family is growing and growing. During the previous presentations, you received plenty of information about the... Sorry. I have to go back. Oh, then you can see my secret slides now. How can I move it? I cannot go one by one. No. Okay, it's pity. Okay. One more. I'm sorry, I apologize for that. So, you received plenty of information about the general framework of our program, specific details about the call 2018, including the legal and the financial aspects of our call. During this presentation, I will share with you the recipe of success or how to draft a good BBI proposal and eventually to be successful. First of all, you have to be excellent. Excellent with a brilliant idea. Secondly, you should show that your idea will have a great impact to the society. And thirdly, this brilliant idea with a superb impact will also be implemented, materialized. However, you should keep into account that BBI calls are very competitive with a high quality of proposals. Moreover, just one more reminder from Paloma's presentation, even if you think that you have a unique expertise, it is not enough to be successful. This is a competition within the budget line because you compete with several other proposals coming from different topics under the specific budget line. And finally, every word counts within the page limit. You might wonder why I have these three great scientists here, Einstein, Marie Curie, Leonardo da Vinci. These will be clearer down the road. As you understand, experts evaluators are not are the main actors that are assessing the proposals within this evaluation process, since BBI JU is not going through the assessment. When we recruit our experts and before we start the evaluation process, we are asking them this principal question. Please check the overlap, how much overlap there is between the topic and the proposal. And how you can do that? The architecture of this process is simple as that. Based on the evaluation criteria, this is the bridge between the topic and the proposal. During my presentation, I will make some distinctions about the evaluation criteria. We're following the H 2020. However, we have also some specific ones for BBI that are reflecting the particularities of our program. Moreover, I will make some more distinctions about the different type of actions, the CSA areas and innovation actions, where the evaluation sub-criteria are slightly different. Moving now to the first evaluation criterion, which is the excellence. Albert Einstein was living in a world where the Newton's laws was the general framework of that time. However, Einstein came with a brilliant idea, which was clearly going beyond the state of the art, the theory of relativity. And this is what actually BBI JU is looking for, a brilliant idea. The question you should ask yourselves here, what is your idea? What is the innovative part of it? And this is how you should start completing the first section. The evaluation criterion of excellence, like the impact of the implementation, are break down in several evaluation sub-criteria. And then I will go one by one. However, I will not focus to all of them because of the time constraint, and we consider that after 5 years of moving to the 5th year of H 2020, you are also experts about the evaluation sub-criteria. Let's start with the first one. The clarity and pertinence of the objectives, which applies to all type of actions. Are the objectives clear, structured, well quantified, and linked to the topic text? Regarding the quantification, if this is requested by the topic text, please describe your objective in a single table, include the target values, and on which time you will achieve them. In the same principle, also we can have the objectives linked to the topic text. Just use the table like a checklist, describe in the left part the specific challenges of the core topic, and then on the right side, how you will address these challenges in the proposals and under which work package. The experts evaluators would like to see all this information gathered, not all around the proposal, because it becomes even more difficult to them to grasp all the other details. However, if it's not this a case, experts evaluators will go one by one page to read the proposal. The tip here is to follow a structured methodology. Next evaluation sub-criterion is the soundness of the concept and the credibility of the proposed methodology. This also applies to all types of actions. What is a concept? The concept is a big idea behind the proposal. If, for example, you want to summarize your proposal in one single line, what would be? You can introduce the concept of your proposal in a nutshell. For example, in a diagram. This will help the experts from the beginning to grasp the idea of this proposal, the concept. However, also to this part, you should include the proposed methodology, which is often called as an approach. How you go from the big idea to reach your stated objectives. You should really read the text, the topic text carefully. You should include all the elements described, and you have to take into account all the parts. Let's have the example of the LCAs, which is included in several topic texts. All proposals should commit to conduct, as part of the project life cycle assessment, life cycle analysis. I understand for the research and innovation actions, a brief explanation on how to perform the LCA and a dedicated work package will be enough. For innovation actions who are close to the market, it is important by the time of the submission that you provide information about the economic, environmental, and other impacts, and if applicable, social impacts. Next evaluation sub-criterion that applies only for the research innovation actions and innovation actions is the extent that the proposed work is going beyond the state of the art and demonstrates innovation potential. Often, our applicants are very enthusiastic about their innovative idea. They are describing how they go beyond the state of the art. But it's unfortunate because they have to mention and describe what is the state of the art, what is their benchmark. Experts evaluators cannot make assumptions. They evaluate the proposal as is submitted. Therefore, if they don't see the benchmark, the state of the art, they cannot evaluate how they go beyond the state of the art. Therefore, it's important to include your benchmark. How you can do that? Let's take the example of the research innovation actions regarding the TRLs. Again, an illustrative table mentioning the technology that will you use within your proposal, show what is the state of the art, and how this progress will move further when you advance your technology going beyond the state of the art. Moving now to the next evaluation sub-criterion, which is applicable only for innovation actions, and this is a specific BBI JU sub-criterion, is the coverage of the whole value chain, starting from biomass, biorefineries, industrial application, consumer and goods. And why is important for innovation actions to evaluate, our experts to evaluate the full coverage of the value chain? If you want to have something commercially viable, you need to make sure that your idea includes all the relevant actors and phases. How you will get your biomass, how you will transform it, what will be your end product and end market. And for the similar reasons, that's why RIAs are not following this evaluation sub-criterion, which is focused mostly on a specific technological problem in part of the value chain. Yes, you have a brilliant idea. So what? How this idea will give impact to the society? For example, Marie Curie was one of our greatest scientists. Her discoveries and findings are impacting our daily lives. Take the example of X-rays. And this is what BBI is looking for, ideas with great impact, because impact is important for H 2020, but also for BBI. And how this is translated through the evaluation. Impact score is 5 out of 5, like the excellence and implementation. However, the threshold is 4 out of 5. And for innovation actions, which are again close to the market, the weighting factor is 1.5. Yes, impact has become more and more important in the EU funding. Moving now to the first evaluation sub-criterion, which applies to all types of actions, is the output of the projects via the expected impacts mentioned in the work plan. You should really read carefully the expected impacts described in the topic text. Are all the expected impacts dealt with? Have you provided quantitative and qualitative analysis? Any other impacts that could be resulted and not mentioned in the call? For example, some negative ones? Our experts are here for a reason. They know very well, based on your analysis, to identify negative impacts. This is the time for you to be honest. Include these possible negative impacts in this part of the proposal. Take up this maybe negative impact in the risk analysis, and you explain to the experts how you minimize that. If you avoid to mention the negative impacts, you will receive lower scores comparing to the other proposals. At this point, I would also like to mention the importance of the BBI JU KPIs I will not go through, this is already analyzed and described by Philip and Eleni. However, I would like just to stress out that this is equally important with the other expected impacts mentioned in the topic text. Therefore, you should describe explicitly how your proposal contributes to each listed expected impact. How you could do that, for example, once more via a table, a checklist again. Impact listed in the call, left side, one by one, and the right side, how these expected impacts are addressed within the proposal, how you will achieve these expected impacts. Exploitation, dissemination, and communication of project results, including IPR. This is the next evaluation sub-criterion, which also applies for all types of actions. Dissemination and exploitation is not only an eligibility criterion, it's also part of the evaluation. Our experts are assessing this part. After each evaluation, our experts give us feedback on how applicants reacted to the several evaluation sub-criteria. For this specific one, their feedback is very interesting. They told us, and they are telling us every time, that some dissemination communication plans, if you copy from one proposal and paste them to the other proposals, could be applicable. Why? Because they are very generic. And experts, evaluators would like to see a real link between the dissemination exploitation plan and the proposal. If they don't see that, they will reflect with a lower score. Therefore, you should be very specific, provide quantitative data, for example, how many conferences, publications, what are the target audiences? And if you say that communication is very important for you, then provide some deliverables that are public, not only confidential, especially the ones for CSAs, who by default CSAs are actions that raising awareness and networking. Part of this evaluation sub-criterion is also the intellectual property rights management, and it also should be addressed. Moving now to the next evaluation sub-criterion that already analyzed by Pilar during the previous presentation, and is addressed to the RIAs and innovation actions, is the extent to which the proposed consortium own contribution, including additional investments, will help maximizing the impact of the action. I highlighted the additional investments in red because this is applicable only for innovation action. During this part of the presentation, I will just explain you how to illustrate this consortium contribution within the Part A of the proposal and the Part B. First of all, clearly describe how much own contribution, how much money you will include in the proposal, and explain how this will maximize the impact of the action. You shouldn't just list the amounts. You should also explain them. If you just leave the amounts without explanation, these will not be taken into consideration by our experts. Let's start from the Part A. In-kind contribution. It can clearly derive from the budget table. Total eligible cost, total cost minus a requested grant, we have the in-kind contribution. This is the example that Pilar showed with the budget table in her presentation. Additional investments and financial transfers. In the Part A, we have a call-specific question area that you can indicate how much cash contribution coming from which companies and the total of the amount, and with the same principle for the additional investments, from which companies are coming and the total amount. Moving now to the Part B of the proposal. As mentioned, you should describe in details, including their impact of these amounts, in the section 3.4, the resources to be committed. Additional investments and financial transfers are clearly described and explained in our guide for applicants. Please read carefully. Here you will see how this will be reflected in the proposal. Let's take the first, which is the additional investment. It's important to show which entities that will undertake certain activities and how these activities contribute to the BBI JU objectives. It is important also, based on this qualitative analysis, to include also the amounts coming from this private investment, the estimated value of public investments, or any other EU funding that receive on top of these additional investments. With the same principle of a table, you can include the financial transfers. What we need here, the two actors, the one who is providing the financial transfers and the one receiving the financial transfers, the amount and the list of activities, one by one bullet point, from the one that will undertake these activities and under which work package. Yes, you have a great idea, and then you have also a superb impact. Now, we'll just move to the question how. How you will implement this idea in order to have a successful project. Leonardo da Vinci was one of our greatest inventors. However, a lot of his ideas couldn't be realized because of the limited technologies available at that time. Only now the Da Vinci helicopter was realized. And I must dare to say that if Leonardo da Vinci was about to be an applicant for the BBI call, unfortunately, it was about not to be funded. But this is not exactly what we're looking for in terms of the implementation. We need something that will have the reality at the end to see the results. And this is the question to ask yourselves, how we will implement this idea. First, evaluation sub-criterion under the implementation that applies to all types of actions is the quality and effectiveness of the work plan, including resources allocation. I understand that sometimes there is a confusion between the proposed methodology and the work plan. These are two different elements. The proposed methodology is what we describe in the excellence part, is how to go from the big idea and concept to reach your objectives. However, even a good approach, which is the excellence, needs a good work plan, and this is actually the implementation. And what is the work plan? Is where you include your objectives, the description of the work, the tasks, and the deliverables. It is important to check the coherence between the budget allocation and timing throughout the proposal. We've seen several proposals where the list of deliverables, the timing of the list of the deliverables are not coherent with the Gantt chart. We've seen proposals that within the budget table, the amounts are different comparing to the amounts in the Part B. Experts evaluators are assessing the proposal as submitted. They cannot make assumptions. They cannot say, it's okay, we've seen it in the budget table, it means that it's the same amounts in the Part B. No, they have to see a coherence of amounts. The next evaluation sub-criterion, which also applies to all types of actions, is allocation of the task, ensuring that all participants have a valid role and adequate resources. For this evaluation sub-criterion, you should convince the experts that the consortium members have a specific role, for example, via the allocation of the resources. And then we come to the question, what is a valid role? Let's say that one participant disappears by magic with its task. Can the project be successfully implemented? If yes, it says that this task associated to this participant were not essential. And if the experts realize and assess that one participant has no valid role, then they will mark this evaluation sub-criterion with a lower mark. Moving now to the management structures and procedures, including risk and innovation management. This evaluation sub-criterion applies also to all types of actions. I understand that consortium of 5 or 20 members, they will have different management structures. For this part, we don't expect to have really innovative management techniques. Don't try to impress the experts with all these great but complicated management structures, which at the end will not work. It's important to be practical. Here, the simplicity is a virtue. You have to show to the experts that these structures could work. Sometimes we receive the feedback that for these management structures could be considered as much more complicated than the legislative procedure of the European Union. So this is a very negative part that could be also reflected with a lower score within the proposal. Moreover, the risk and innovation management is part of this evaluation sub-criterion. You should explicitly mention the risk plan. You should include real risk and mitigation measures, so from the low, medium, and high. Again, with the same principle of the dissemination and communication plan. Experts evaluators' feedback is, if you take this risk plan and you copy from one proposal to the other, it could be considered applicable. Experts understand if you hide a real risk that could be derived from this proposal. This is the time to acknowledge the risk and propose real mitigation measures. Convince the experts about that. It's unfortunate to have a perfect implementation plan, and because of this risk plan, with avoiding mentioning real risk, points to be deducted. Just have the following examples. Risk, low interest from external stakeholders, work packages, estimated resources not enough, slow or inefficient communication between the project management and the consortium. Yes, these are risks, but risk for all the proposals. We want to see you to go to the step ahead and identify the real risk, and this is also will be rewarded by the experts. Next evaluation sub-criterion. Soundness of the business case and business plans. This applies to innovation actions. Why? Because innovation actions, once more, are close to the market. Therefore, business case and business plan are needed. How to present that? Please check the guide for applicants. There you can see the bullet points of what BBI JU, business plan and business case, is defined. How much information are needed? This is up to you to decide. BBI is not counting in terms of the pages within the page limit, all information regarding the business case and the business plan. You can provide as much as many information you want in the section 4.5, which are, as I mentioned, not included in the 70-page limit. And for flagships, this also is a part of the hearing process. We understand that sometimes consortium members are not willing to share the business case and business plan relevant commercial and sensitive data before signing the consortium agreement. This is why they can provide more information, more clarification, because more information, this is not the principle of the evaluation. Apologize for that. Further clarification to the experts during the hearings process. Moving now towards the end, the readiness of the technology is also a specific sub-criterion for the innovation actions. And like I explained before for the RIAs, under the proposed methodology, here for the innovation actions, it's important to mention from the technology that you would like to advance, what is the start level of this technology during the beginning of the project, and on which TRL will be achieved at the end of the project. For flagship, it's important that the applicants shows that operating in a demonstration scale plants at a significant production capacity by the time of the submission. Before closing this presentation, I would also to show you once more the importance of the implementation criterion by using the Call 2017 case. Here in this table you can see the average score for the successful proposals divided in each evaluation criterion. This is the left column. In the mid column, the proposals in the reserve list, and on the right column, the proposals below threshold. You can see that the biggest jump between the successful proposals and the ones in the reserve list is in the implementation. Our applicants from the previous call, they put the efforts on the implementation and being successful with a score of 4.91. The ones in the reserve list, the average score was 4.1, showing that they could even go more further in order to get more marks and hopefully and happily to transfer from the reserve to the successful list. Therefore, the biggest difference to 5 is in the implementation. And also you can make a difference within your proposal if you take into consideration and to account in advance on how to draft the implementation. How you write a good proposal? Ensure that all information are explicitly described so as our expert evaluator will be able to assess against the evaluation criteria. Read all relevant documentation, be familiar and at the end professional with the CSA's RIAs and innovation actions, provide explicit answers to these evaluation sub-criteria, create your own checklist one by one and see how this was addressed within the proposal and also ensure time for modification and further reflection. Use a proposal template and structure that are described in the guide for applicants. All this information can be found in our website. This is already described, presented in the before. However, if you have questions, please come during the break or in the afternoon session in the BBI booth, or send us an email to the info@bbi.europa.eu. Questions that can be applicable to all applicants will be published in our frequently asked questions, so please consult our website and the frequently asked questions often. What is finally the recipe of success? The recipe of success lays to this triangle, and the successful proposal is located in the middle. Thank you very much, good luck, and let the best proposal win.
Thank you very much, Polyvios. And now it's time for the last presentation of the session 3. So I invite Mome Velmed. Mome Velmed is Executive Director of Pharma BC and Partnering Platform Specialist for BBI JU.
Thank you, Philip. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to present you BBI Partnering and to give you a short overview about the networking activities in the afternoon. BBI Partnering is the online networking system for the bio-based community in Europe. BBI Partnering has been launched in 2015 to support the European stakeholders in the construction of consortia projects for the annual BBI calls. Therefore, it has been designed to facilitate the identification of consortia candidates and to actually network with them. BBI Partnering is a service available throughout the whole year. In the periods of open calls, BBI Partnering is offering detailed information about the topics and informs you about what members are interested in what specific topics or value chains or strategic orientations. BBI Partnering offers you detailed member profiles, informing you about the activities in the field of the bio-based economy and their networking aims in the regard for the upcoming calls. BBI Partnering enables you also to publish your specific consortia projects and ideas to attract consortia candidates. These are called the pitches. A specific focus has been given to the BBI Info Days. The attendees can view the list of attendees, view detailed attendee profiles, and can send and receive meeting invitations. Since its creation in 2015, BBI Partnering is used by more than 2,000 individual members. The opening of calls and the associated BBI Info Days attract all the time new registration of new companies publishing new project ideas and new consortia offers. There have been made 500 profile updates recently, including 300 new profiles in the opening of Call 2018. The members are coming from more than 30 countries, and they represent a wide variety of organizations. They cover all the different value chains and strategic orientations defined by the CERA. Today, the biggest number of members come from research organizations and universities. An important number also comes from industry, large groups, as well as SMEs. Technology transfer units and specialized service companies are building the third big block of the member community. In the last 2 months, more than 500 individual members updated their profiles to inform us about the topics they're interested in 2018. Around 200 attendees of this meeting here today already updated their selections for the current Call 2018. More than 120 detailed cooperation offers for the Call 2018 have now been published by the attendees here. In regard to the BBI Call 2018, the BBI members in general are now starting to inform you about the type of actions and specific topics they're interested in. For these members and attendees, you can see what are their interests, what they're looking for, and what type of expertise or resources they are providing or requesting to build a competitive consortia proposal. Today, in addition to these member profiles, more than 150 specific offers for consortia projects are available. And more offers are being published day by day. So yes, now is definitely the time that you check your BBI account and update your member profile to inform the other members about your interests for specific topics. For you, the attendees of this BBI Info Day, a specific section is available. This section resumes all the relevant information about the activities of today, including the conference program, but especially the attendees registered and their networking offers. Within this section, you can view the list of attendees, you can view their profiles, and you can select potential consortia partners and send a meeting invitation to be hosted today. You can accept or decline incoming meeting invitations, and you can review your meeting agenda for the afternoon session. In the last 4 weeks, more than 300 attendees of this BBI Info Day have accessed BBI Partnering to learn more about the program and the attendees available today. In the last 2 weeks, 200 attendees have used BBI Partnering to pre-schedule personal meetings with the networking candidates for the brokerage event in the afternoon. They selected their meeting candidates and addressed via BBI Partnering their personal meeting invitation. This activity allowed us already to pre-schedule, you announced 600. We are now close to 700 meetings scheduled for the brokerage event in the afternoon. Right now, more than 300 meeting invitations are still pending and await for acceptance or declination by the invited attendee. So let me explain in a few words how you can still make more meetings or even start scheduling a very first meeting in the afternoon. Therefore, you can use either the website with your computer or laptop, tablet, or you can use the mobile app. Please log into your personal account with your personal login information. In all systems, you will find a section attendees, and there you can scroll either down the listing or you can run keyword searches to find your meeting candidates. When you see an attendee you wish to meet, please send them a meeting invitation. Therefore, within this attendee profile, you will find an icon and symbol which allows you to send a meeting invitation directly to this person. BBI Partnering will deliver your invitation directly to this attendee by email and a push alert on his mobile phone. If you receive a new meeting invitation, you also will receive an email alert. And if you have already downloaded the mobile app, you will receive a push alert. You simply need to accept or decline this invitation, and BBI Partnering will check and propose a time slot which is available still for both meeting partners. Both meeting partners will be informed online about the time slot and the meeting point proposed. Throughout the afternoon, your agenda is permanently updated. In addition to the meeting time and location, you can review the profile of your meeting partners and check what type of action or what specific topic he or she is interested in. The best time to send and accept meeting invitations shall be during the lunch break. The earlier you send your meeting invitations, the earlier your meeting candidate is informed about your wish to meet you. So now, how is this happening here? Meetings are scheduled from 2 to 5 p.m. Each meeting can take up to 15 minutes. So please take care to arrive in time and to quit your meeting slot in time. The meeting points are defined by numbers, and there exist today 59 different meeting points. Please send your meeting invitation or accept your meeting invitation until 3:30. This will enable us to schedule your meetings until 5 p.m. and to inform you and your meeting partners about the meeting time and meeting point. Again, your meeting agenda is up to date all the time. Please check it regularly and especially around 3:30, because this will be the time where we run the last schedule. For any question, please don't hesitate to come and meet me outside at the booth BBI Partnering. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Momi. So it's now time for the Q&A session. So do you have some question, need for clarification? Also taking into account that the booths are there from 1 p.m. Okay, I received a few questions online. The first question is about the RIA topic with an additional eligibility criteria, are 4, 8, and 11. And the question is it compulsory to introduce financial contribution in cash? Maybe Pilar, you can answer.
Well, we already talked about these research and innovation actions with an additional eligibility criteria. These are topics are 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and 11. The eligibility criteria is about the participation of a big member that is a large industry. That's to say that it's not eligible for funding. This is the eligibility criteria. So it is not about the financial contribution. Of course, as we already mentioned several times, consortium-own contribution composed by in-kind contributions, financial transfers, financial contributions, and additional investments is one of it's evaluated in the impact criterion at the selection of proposals. So of course, a significant consortium-own contribution will have more chances of scoring highly in the evaluation. Don't know if there's something else to add by.
So if I may add to this, so if it's not an explicit obligation, it is very much expected in those special topics that in-cash contributions will be provided. And so the eligibility formal criterion is the one mentioned in the presentations and by Pilar, but this is the expectation. And just to reiterate again as well for those who are watching us and might have just joined in, of course, cash contributions are possible for all topics, okay, just to be very persistent on this.
Okay, thank you. I have another question about hearings. So this is for you. The question is about the question to be addressed and how long do they need to be sent in advance. So it's very and also a question about the fact that only coordinators are invited for the hearing. So is it restricted strictly to the coordinators?
Normally, the information will be sent to the coordinator for the timing of the hearings of the meeting in September. And the questions are sent in advance at least 1 week, in order to let them be prepared. Yes.
No, just to mention that this is not 1 week, it's 1 day, it's 24 hours. Our target is 24 hours to send to the coordinators the questions in advance. And this is why, because during the evaluation process of for the innovation actions for the flagships, the experts, they start with the excellence, they move to the impact, they briefly discuss the and finalize the whole evaluation sub-criterion structure, and then they move to the implementation. They stop to the business case, business plan, and technology readiness level. At that day, they will also formulate their questions, and then it will be sent to the coordinators 24 hours in advance to get prepared and come to Brussels to provide further clarification for this, only for these two specific evaluation sub-criteria. For the participation, first of all, BBI is not paying for this travel to Brussels from the coordinator. We actually ask the coordinator to come with maximum 3 people that could defend the business case, business plans, and the TRL, the technology readiness level. It's up to the coordinator to decide if he or she will be able to provide this clarification to the experts. That's perfect. If he or she needs support from other colleagues, maximum to 3, they can come to Brussels with their own responsibility in terms of cost.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Okay, you have another one here. Will be for you, Polybius. If the consortium is not providing consortium own contribution, how much this will affect the evaluation result?
I will just add on top of what Pilar said. This is a part of the evaluation. The impact is composed with different evaluation sub-criteria. One of it is a consortium-owned contribution. Therefore, if you don't address consortium-owned contribution and also clarifications, how this will maximize the impact of the action, then this will be reflected to a lower score. However, I would like just to bring to your attention that for innovation actions, the threshold for impact is 4. Therefore, if you haven't demonstrated 100% the great impact and you don't have consortium on contribution, you can also make conclusions in terms of the results for the impact. But as I said, this is up to the experts to assess. Our responsibility as a BBI office is to ensure the equal treatment of candidates, to align all the panels, and at the end we'll have the same approach followed for all proposals that are going through this specific evaluation sub-criteria.
And I would like to add to what has already been said with a reminder again of what was mentioned in earlier presentations, that BBI JU is an industry-driven program, and of course industry commitment has to be clearly demonstrated in the different types of actions according to our rules. So I think it is important that all proposers remember that, and the better you reflect on that in your proposals, and you address the better you address evaluation criteria, the better likelihood you had to be positively evaluated.
Okay, thank you. Yes, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, please, a clarification on this 1.5 factor for the impact on IA calls. What was meant by this when you said its impact will be evaluated with a factor of 1.5?
The evaluation system supports this transformation, let's say, of the weighting factor. The experts are giving their scores based on 5. However, the final results will be based on calculations, will be, let's say, change, taking into consideration the 1.5. That was also my question to the European Commission responsible team for how they calculate this. This is a specific algorithm, but at the end, what is important to say is that the final scores will be transformed with the 1.5 weighting factor. This is just to keep in your mind that for the impact, you will receive higher score if you manage to reach the perfect score of 5.
and I will add again, it really stresses the importance of impact for the evaluation of the proposals of BBI JU. So the projects that we want to finance are projects that have tangible impact and can clearly demonstrate that. So the competition is really very, very important there, okay?
Okay, so we are approaching, sorry, there was, yes, please.
For the special areas, let's say I have a technology at TRL 324. Do I still fit the criteria? Because it's from 1 to 3.
So in principle, TRL already from the end TRL from 3 to 5 is for RIAs that are, let's say, the classical RIAs. For the special RIAs, we were really looking at an earlier stage proof of concept level of projects. So in principle, the technology has to be at an earlier stages of its maturity. But of course, this doesn't mean that the main technology may be at the earlier stages, but other supportive technologies can be at a later stage. But if you want, perhaps we can discuss in more detail in the info booth.
Yes, please.
Yes, one of you mentioned that the proposal has to have a data management plan, but you didn't develop much on it. My question is that because many of these projects will have results that have to deal with patents, that will request patents, how will you implement the policy, the European Commission's policy of open data after the projects are done?
Okay, so for everything that has to do with IPR, we don't have no deviations at all for the general rules. So the open data is not a pilot anymore. It's a policy that is being implemented all through Horizon 2020 program. Open data doesn't mean open everything. There is standards about minimum publications that are set by default. This default can also be overruled, but with very good reasons. This open data policy can be overruled at any time. A proposal leveled, what the information that it has to be there is the IPR management. After, when you are invited to GAP, we will start to take care of the open data, and we will see to which extent the results of the project can be totally open, or if not, this open data can be overruled.
Can you click the button of the microphones, please?
Can you hear me now? That's great, thank you. Just a specific question I have. Earlier on, we saw that part of this partnership is the Bio-Based Industry Consortium. And my question is there a preference or advice you would give that each project has to contain a project partner from the BIC, which is the Bio-Based Consortium or not? In the nutshell, is there a preference if a project has no partners from the Bio-Based Industry Consortium, or we have a project which does not contain any of the bio-based industry members?
Okay, I can answer this one. First of all, there is no extra point or negative point with regard to the composition of the consortium with or without big members. But what the statistics clearly demonstrate is that the consortium having a big member have a much higher success rate, and this for different reasons. One of the reasons is that when you are a member of a big, you directly contribute to the programming, you are part of the community, you have access to early information, which simply enable you to build a better proposal. But it's not mandatory. As Dirk himself already said, the calls are fully open. Okay, so are you hungry? It's lunchtime. Can I remind you again to take all your belongings outside the room because we have to rearrange. Now let's move to the networking lunch and see you back in the room at 2 p.m. For the next session. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.